So I've always liked the idea of having a security system for my house, but I've never really liked the idea of paying the monthly payments, and I've never really liked the idea of having potentially unscrupulous people with access to cameras in my house. So what's my solution? Roll my own, of course. In this video, we're going to learn how to set up a DIY security system with a Raspberry Pi and a common webcam. Before we get started in this project, I did want to say one thing. This is not a real security system. The hardware wasn't designed for security system use, neither was the software. There's no guarantee of reliability, and they will probably fail you when you need them most. So I'm telling you, you should never use this to protect anything important. And if you do decide to use it, you assume the risk. The first thing we need to do is install Raspbian Lite on our Pi and get our Pi on the network at a known IP address. We'll be using Raspbian Stretch Lite in this video. If you don't know how to do this, you can watch my videos on setting that up. So go ahead and do that and then come back to this video. Now that we have Raspbian installed, we need to install Motion. So let's secure shell to our Pi. And install Motion. Okay, that was easy enough. Now let's plug in our webcam and make sure it's recognized. Once we have the camera plugged in, we can do an LS USB. You should see a line similar to this based on your webcam model. If you don't see your webcam here, check the Raspberry Pi webcam compatibility list. I'll link to the list in the description. Now we can configure Motion. The main Motion config file is etcmotion motion.conf. We could go through here and find each individual line that we want to change and make a change, but I like to put all my changes at the end of the file. That way if I have to set this up again, I can just copy a block of configuration. So let's do that. So the first thing I'm going to set is the frame rate. I'm going to set mine to 15 frames per second. Just some playing around I've done with my webcam. This seems to work best for me. I'm going to set the output pictures to best. This basically means when Motion is writing out the pictures that it captures, it's just going to give me the one with the most motion and not a ton of individual frames. I'm going to set my target dir to something simple like opt motion. This is just where the output files are written. Now I'm going to set up the file names. This is personal preference. Looking at these names before, the way that they were didn't sort well for me, so I've changed them to be this. Going through this just does year, month, day, and then a separated block has hour, minute, and second, and then the T is the camera number, and the V is the event number. The picture file name will just be the individual image. The movie file name will be the compilation of images with motion that make up the motion capture. And then finally, I'm going to specify that I have another configuration file for my camera. This is not strictly necessary. You can put your camera settings in this file, but in a future video we're going to expand the system to have more cameras, and it's more convenient to have them as separate threads. So that's what we're doing here. I want to make a quick note here. If you're using Motion earlier than version 4, instead of saying camera here, you would say thread. They work the same, just the terminology has changed between Motion 3 and Motion 4. Okay, I'm going to save this file and quit. Now we'll create that camera configuration file. I'm just specifying the video device that identifies my camera. The first webcam plugged in will always be dev video 0. The text to the left just puts an overlay of text on the left of all the images that will say, in my case, Office Cam. Now I'm going to specify the size of the image I want from my camera. This obviously has to be something your camera can support. I'm going to use 640 by 480. Save and quit. Okay, if you remember when we edited the motion.conf, we set our target directory to be opt.motion. Well, that doesn't exist yet, so I'm going to go ahead and make that. And I'm going to give motion ownership. Alright. There's one more thing we need to do before we can actually make this work. Motion has a switch in Etsy default motion that specifies whether or not that motion will start up on boot. And if you don't turn it on, you can't actually start motion. So let's do that. We simply set this to yes. Okay, we should be able to try motion now. You can start motion like this. If it works, it should turn the light on your webcam. You can also manually check the status. And you should see something like this. Press Q to end. Okay, with motion running, go ahead and wave your hand in front of the camera or do your best crazy dance. Then stop the motion and wait for a bit to let motion write out the motion capture file. Once that's done, you can check out opt.motion for your files. Again, the JPEG is the picture with the most motion, and the AVI is the movie of the entire motion capture. You can see it has the date, the time, the camera number, 1 in our case, and the event number, which was also 1 in this case. So there you go, you have a working DIY security system. Before we move on though, let's figure out how to stop it. That will stop it, but remember, if you reboot, motion's going to come back up. So if you want to not start motion at boot, remember to go back and edit that switch. Just set this to no. Now you'll be unable to start motion again until you set that back. But I think we're all set up with our security system. That's all for this video. Thanks for watching.